Oh, okay. This fight right here. Um, in those two chests, I'm not sure. I think both the chests contain upgrades for your golem, and one of those upgrades is group heal. You absolutely need this upgrade. I mean, I don't see how I could have beaten this DLC without it. You know, it's pretty much key. You know, you have to get that upgrade. These are optional fights. You know, I could skip these and you know go straight to the next fight and try to get to the harvester, but you know, heal is just you don't have a mage anymore. You need some sort of healing other than potions because potions don't get you very far in this game, especially on higher difficulties. You know, you want to have some sort of heal, and the group heal for the golem is really key. Um, Maybe it's the second fight where you get it. But basically, what I'm trying to say is you need to fight these fights. They're optional fights, but get those upgrades. And along those lines, there is one more optional fight. It's very hard to find, but there's a final upgrade, or I should say two final upgrades for your golem. Uh, in like a far north room, uh, you have to backtrack a lot once you flip. I think of like a purple switch or something. You have to backtrack all the way to some far north room, and in there there's an upgrade for, let me see, it's a revival for revival and tempest. And you know, revival's such a great ability. You know, if your party members go down, you can still salvage the fight. You know, revive them, keep the fight going. But let me tell you, I skipped that fight. I tried it a couple times. I deemed it impossible. I think it's more impossible than the harvester fight at the end. Basically, what it is they're trapping you in a small little tiny room with six golems. It's not four like in the typical, you know, the other golem fights that are in this game. There's six of them, and two of them are boss level golems. And yeah, I mean, you flip that switch, and they instantly teleport all your party towards each other. Like they group them up together, and that coupled with six golems throwing stones, you know, spamming the hurl ability, it's just there's no chance. I mean, maybe I could have used some sort of like stealth tactics. I no, I don't even think so. I gave up on that fight. Uh, I said, you know, I could do without revival. And I could do without tempest. You know, they're not really that key to beating the harvester. You know, if one of my party members goes down, the fight's pretty much over. You know, I could still revive them, but you know, it wastes time. And you know, if I make a mistake on the harvester fight, I make a mistake. It's pretty much over. The final fight, I have to play perfectly. So revival in the end, it's not really worth it. And tempest, you know, a large AOE spell that does damage. You know, I don't see how I could keep the harvester inside the tempest long enough without drawing threat on the golem. And you know, there's just too many skeletons scattered all over the place for that to be useful. So despite all these being optional fights, I would suggest only doing these first two optional fights to get these abilities, and not that last one in case you did find the room. Unless, of course, you're using, you know, a high-level character, level 30 and above, or 25 and above, whatever. If you can get it done, you know, go ahead. Because actually, inside that room, I think there's some loot. I think it's the Reaper's Cudgel. I think that's what it is. I'm not sure what it's called, and some other stuff. I'm not really sure because, you know, like I said, I didn't get the stuff, and I did miss it on my first playthrough. But yeah, that fight is ridiculous. So in this fight right here, you just see me doing the same tactics again as distracting all the golems with all the large characters while I pick them off from a distance and hopefully try not to draw threat on my archers, which isn't working too well, especially when Snug's not around. You know, one of the great things about Snug that I forgot to mention is, you know, that makes him another great character, is that once he goes down, Jarek has only a 10-second cooldown, and then he can spawn Snug again, that's just ridiculous. You know, I think the cooldown for my bear alone is like a full minute, which is kind of sucks because, well, the bear's kind of worthless compared to Snug. But yeah, as you can see, I have Jarek on auto cast, so that he spawns Snug as soon as possible, at any time possible, and that's probably the best way to set up the tactics for him. You know, I forget sometimes, you know, to check to see if the cooldown's ready. So I mean, just to have him spawn him as soon as possible. That's probably the best way to set him up. I do have some tactics turned on for everybody at this point of the game. tactics, they're not really that necessary if you micromanage. But I don't want to micromanage these early fights too much. But I do turn off the tactics for the Harvester fight because that needs a lot of micromanaging, and I don't want anybody doing anything that I didn't order them to do, if that makes any sense. So I just, for that fight, I turn off all tactics, with the exception of Jarek's spawning snug. Okay, and here another example of fighting on your own terms. Basically, send the bear in here to basically die, you know, suicide mission, but actually everybody just comes to my party. I was hoping to distract everybody with that bear for just a couple seconds while I picked off some of these arcane mortars, but it works out anyways. You know, they funnel in one by one, and basically it's easy to pick them off like that. If you rush into that room, I mean, props to you if you can do it with a level 20. Wow, you will just get hit with everything. I think the first time I rushed in there, I got hit with a fireball, chain lightning, blizzard, plus you know that red was kicking my ass. So basically a lost cause if you just rush in there. But you know, as you can see, you know, Dragon Age is just, you know, pick your battles, use your tactics wisely, and make a difficult battle into, you know, a very simple one like this one. You know, it wasn't very hard once I figured out where to position everybody. And I think this is my third attempt. I rushed in there twice, like an idiot, and I just said, you know what, screw it. This is just one of those fights, you know. And yeah. Well, I guess I never mentioned picking up Brogan in my party. Brogan, for the most part, level 20 Brogan, pretty useless. You know, I don't find much use for the guy. Except in the Harvester fight, he has a really important role that can basically be filled by anybody, but it's an important role, so, you know, he does his job. But basically from here on out, you know, like I said, the fights are pretty straightforward up until the Harvester, so, you know, I'm just going to talk about something else, you know. What do you guys think about Dragon Age 2, you know? I've been looking at the trailers and keeping up with the game and stuff, but I don't know, something about it kind of worries me. It's like, you know, they're kind of changing too much, kind of like they changed from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, Mass Effect 2 is my favorite game, but you know, there's some problems with that game. You know, they took too many things out from the first game, and you know, I guess one of my main problems with the Dragon Age 2 stuff that I've seen is they're kind of changing the combat system a little bit too much. You know, they said they wanted, you know, like more action oriented, more fast paced, and you know, I think the game's fast paced enough. You know, you see me doing like a lot of pause and play. You know, I'm being overly cautious, especially because just I'm a low level right now. You know, but you know, if you got a good build and a good crew, you know, the game's pretty fast paced. And if you're playing this game on like on the harder difficulties, trust me, this game could not go any faster. You know, your mind's racing a mile a minute, especially when you're trying to get through those really tough fights. And I just don't see why they wanted to make it more like they're saying action oriented. Especially for the consoles, they said they're changing the combat system up more for the consoles, which, you know, I don't see the point of that. You know, people want to play an RPG. They don't want to play, you know, God of War / Dragon Age. You know, at least from the previews that I've been seeing. You know, but you know, I have faith in BioWare. You know, they put out fantastic games. You know, my favorite games of all time. So you know, I can't really judge the game beforehand. And another thing that they're implementing, you know, and I know a lot of fans have issues with this, is that you can no longer create your own Origins character. You're basically playing one character if you don't know. You know, you're playing a human by the name of Hawk. You can still choose, you know, your class and everything, but basically it's just a human, male or female, and they're fully voiced. So you know that kind of constrains the dialogue options, especially when they have to record each dialogue option. Excuse me. You know, twice, once for the male and once for the female. You know, because you know when you're fully voicing a game versus, you know, something like this where it's just, you know, click on text. You know, you're gonna have less options. You know, I don't really see the point to switching to the conversation wheel. I know Mass Effect's really successful, and kind of want to copy that formula, but they shouldn't put the conversation wheel in every game. I know they're also going to be putting it in their MMO. Star Wars: The Old Republic. I mean, is every Bioware game from now on going to have a conversation wheel? And the second iteration of the conversation wheel, which is in Mass Effect 2, that's already getting kind of old. And they kind of messed that up too. If you don't know, in Mass Effect 2, your speech options are dependent on, your speech abilities. Your ability to persuade or intimidate a person are kind of dependent on what kind of responses you choose. So basically, you'll be able to persuade people more easily if you always choose, the kind-hearted responses versus, you'll be able to intimidate people more easily when you choose the renegade responses, and you get really punished, for not being able to have those speech abilities later in the game if you choose to, I guess diversify your character. You're kind of locked into choosing, oh, okay, well, I can only choose the Paragon option. It's kind of dumb. It kind of limits your character in a way. If they're gonna do that, they might as well, have an option to say, you know what, just click all the conversation options for me. All the Paragon choices. That's what I'm going for this game. It shouldn't really be like that. You should be able to choose, whatever you want, whenever you want, without being, punished in that sort of way. But like I said, BioWare's, they're a great developer, and they listen to the community and stuff, and I have high hopes for the game. Excuse me, I'm stuttering a bit. First commentary, remember? But I'm just not really that hyped about it. But hopefully it'll be good. Alright, I think this is this is the last fight before the Harvester fight, and this fight really frustrated me. Uh, that I don't know what it's called. Is it like something phantasm? I can't read the text. It's a little too small for me to see, but he can do a lot of damage to your party. He took me out. He took me out twice in a row. I wasn't being careful. Kind of rushing in here. The last couple fights were a little easy, and it frustrated me a bit. But then in subsequent attempts, 3 attempts in a row, the game crashed on me when I was doing really good and I'm about to win this fight. So I got really frustrated at this point, and I actually I stopped playing this day and saved the Harvester fight for the next day because I just knew I was just gonna get too frustrated, too flustered with that boss fight after this fight, especially after the game crashing on me so many times. But I got to this fight and it's really not that difficult. I don't know why I had so much trouble with it. But I mean, that's Dragon Age for you. Even some simple battles can be pretty tricky sometimes if you're not careful. Foes can sneak up on you. And let's see. Okay, I thought I was gonna do that stealth critical thing again. Hopefully, I stopped that crap by now. Maybe not. Oh, excuse me. This is not the last battle. There's one more room where you get the combination to unlock the forge, where the harvester is, and that's the final battle before the harvester. But I mean, I totally forgot about it. It's a really simple battle. There's just 2 golems. It's nothing, nothing remarkable. That's probably why I forgot about it.